Welcome to a special episode of Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast. Regulars might have heard us discuss Karan Johar's 50th birthday, which was a massive event in Bollywood. And as a Bollywood podcast, we thought you might like to listen to us discuss his debut movie, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, starring Shah Rukh Khan, Kajol and Rani. This comes to you from the Khandaan Archives all the way back from 2019. If you like what you hear, remember to subscribe, drop us a review, spread the word, or check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Khandaan Podcast, where we post lots of extras. I'm your host Amrita, and I'm joined by my friends and co-hosts Asim and Sujoy. This is the Khandaan review of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, directed by Karan Johar.
Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
So what are we doing this episode? We're pretty much Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, right? Nothing else.
Yes.
I think the movie kind of... I think the episode just needs Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and I don't think like much happened in Bollywood anyway, right?
Yeah, because bahut kuch hota hai in this movie, and people have to talk a lot about this movie.
Yeah. So what happened in Bollywood?
That publicity image of Pati Patni or Wo came out with Kartik Aaryan, and nobody gives a shit.
I think a lot of people seem to care.
That one image where with him holding hand of both the ladies with Bhumi and Ananya, that kind of reminded me of the bench scene from Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
Yeah.
And I guess
Wait, Sujoy, what's her name again?
What? Bhumi Petnegar?
No, the other one.
Ananya Pandey.
Okay.
Why?
Because Sujoy and Asim both can't say her name.
Naya Panda. It's Naya Panda.
Ananya.
And you literally said Nananya, but all right.
Nananya. I have a classmate called Ananya. It's fine.
Yeah, there's a remake bug sweeping through Bollywood right now. They're apparently trying to remake Andaz Apna Apna. Pati Patni or Wo has been greenlit.
But I think the story also started when Taapsee got kicked out of this movie, right? I think that's where it started, and Bhumi took over her role. I think that's what the rumor was. Yeah.
And I think the scuttlebutt is that Kejo engineered the whole thing and got his faves to act in this movie. So
but Bhumi is Kejo, Team Kejo. Is that what?
Yeah.
And who's producing this movie?
T-series, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Ananya, of course, is lesser Suhana for Kejo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's whose daughter is she? Or
Chunky Pandey.
Chunky Pandey.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
And the penny drops.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know. Also didn't know that Chunky Pandey has that much pull. If Govinda's daughter can't get launched, how does Chunky's?
It's his wife. It's the Star Wives thing. It's not Chunky per se. It's his wife. His wife is really good friends with Gauri Khan and that little group of people.
Oh.
And I think Suhana and Ananya are best friends or something, or they hang out quite a bit.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay. I don't know. Does anybody have feelings about this news necessarily?
No.
Only that I don't want to watch this movie.
Yeah. I've not watched the original one. I don't.
Was that
know.
a Sanjeev Kumar movie?
Yes.
I
It
have
had
not watched it.
Sanjeev Kumar and Vidya Sinha. Like, how are they remaking it with like these people? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I think they think like since Kartik Aaryan made like a couple of misogynistic movies, they'll just cast him in every single misogynistic movie going forward. They just like
He's got a brand to protect, right?
What a brand.
Cheater, yeah, basically.
Great.
Cheater. That really brings us back to Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
So before we get into Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, let's do the selection for next episode. And the year that we pulled out is 2015. Which is quite recent. I think people like our recent, when it's a recent movie, it seems like. So let us know if you like the recent ones or more kind of the older ones. So in 2015 we had Shah Rukh Khan's Dilwale. Salman had Bajrangi Bhaijaan, Prem Ratan Dhan Payo. And then Amir was only the voice of Pluto and then Dil Dhadakne Do, so we can't allow that into the vote, unfortunately. So
even though we love that movie, but
yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be between those three: Dilwale, Bajrangi, and Prem Ratan Dhan Payo. So I'm assuming Salman will take this unless somebody wants to annoy Amrita and pick Dilwale.
Or Prem Ratan Dhan Payo. Like I will kill whoever.
I still haven't seen Dilwale.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Okay.
lucky you.
Even in like recently, there was a Rohit Shetty interview with Film Companion, and he was like, "Bal Bal Bach Gaye." They knew that movie was terrible, like from when they shot it. It's pretty crazy. So yeah. But yeah, it made money, I guess. So yeah. So those are the picks for next episode. This episode, let's get our main review started, which is Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
कुछ कुछ होता है कुछ कुछ होता है राहुल तुम नहीं समझोगे
कुछ कुछ होता है अंजलि तुम नहीं समझोगे
So we ran Amrita, you ran the Curious Cat for this, right?
Okay, so what happened was we were really stuck about who to invite to the podcast for this particular episode because everybody's watched Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Everybody has a strong opinion about this movie, and we had so many fans who have written about this movie, who have talked about this movie, who bring it up on social media every so often, who reference it, that we really didn't know who to invite. So Asim and I were talking about it, and then we were getting a little stressed about it. So I started making fun of Sujoy because usually a good way to let off steam. And I said, why can't Sujoy find us a few people? And Sujoy, do you remember what you said?
What did I say?
You said you were going to head out to Canary Wharf and start asking people if they had strong opinions about Kuch Kuch Hota Hai so that you could recruit them for the episode. And we all laughed, but then I thought, wait, we have, thanks to modern technology, a way of recruiting people to do exactly that online. Then we set up the Curious Cat, and I honestly thought it was going to flop because I was like, who's going to use this stupid thing? And then, like, it was like the floodgates opened, and like everybody, like, I don't even know, I hope like everybody that wrote in is actually a listener of the show because it was very nice just to have like that many people respond. So thank you.
Thank you, one and all.
And so also if you want us to let this Curious Cat open, let us know too if you enjoyed this kind of format. So, but yeah, Amrita will kind of have a bit more work to do if we do, but we might open it for like certain movies. But I just feel like like the anonymity helps people to ask us more questions, because they could also get us on Twitter or on email, but clearly they haven't. So Curious Cat seems to be working. So why not? It's a way to kind of talk to us. And we kind of picked out a few of the themes that kind of were recurring in most of the Curious Cats, right? So we're going to talk about this, then we're going to talk about the movie too when we do it. So it's kind of like the thread through the podcast using these Curious Cat questions. And also, it's a movie that's been memeified. It's a movie that's been gifified, that there's been like BuzzFeed listicles about it. There was the 20-year celebration that happened, I think, this year. So it's a movie, and plus it's also in the benefit of Dharma. It's the movie that made Dharma, right? So it's also in their kind of benefit to make this a classic and push this as a classic, right? So there's definitely that there too, and they're very smart and savvy about doing that.
And deservingly so. Like, this movie is iconic in every sense of the word. Like, rewatching it for the 190th time yesterday, it just, like, every single frame, it's been made wonderfully for its time. It still stands as a milestone in how Bollywood works in that aesthetic way. It kind of made the brand Bollywood, I suppose. Like, it started off with DDLJ and or Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, if you want to go back a bit more, but following this, every single movie wanted to look like this.
I'm always surprised, like every single time that I rewatch this movie, intentionally or not, I'm always surprised by how well it holds up. Like, I know, like, we all, like Sujoy said, we all give it a lot of shit, including Kejo, but it actually holds up, like, movie making wise. The craftsmanship kind of, like, holds up over time. Like, the way it's structured is a very classic structure kind of a movie. And that really helps it, like, hold together. Like, somebody on the Curious Cat said about how, like, how this is, like, has held up better than DDLJ. And that's because DDLJ really feels dated in some of the ways that it's put together. Right. Whereas, like, Kuch Kuch is, like, very, like, very classic, very, like, it doesn't go, like, the structure doesn't date.
Yeah.
So I'm always surprised by that. Like, even if, like, some of the acting choices might look dated and stuff, like, the structure of the movie is still solid.
Yeah. I was kind of like dreading it for the podcast in a way, because it's 3 hours long, which is quite a bit of time. And I've seen this movie so many times. I was like, maybe I could just do the podcast without watching the movie, because I know it by heart. But when I started watching it again, like, I was like, okay, I'll just skip through it and this and that. But I was engrossed. I was back into it. I was like crying within 10 minutes, and it like, and I was just thinking about it, that I think Kejo was 24 when he directed this movie or made this movie, right? Yeah. So it basically resurrected his dad's studio, which was pretty much failing at that moment. It solidified Shah Rukh Khan as the biggest star we have. It opened up the NRI market. It set trends in fashion, in the way movies were set. And it also, like, filmically, it really kind of changed the structure of how a screenplay should be done, right? We've had, like, this way of, like, setting up the world, then flashbacking for the first half of the movie, and then kind of going back just before the interval. I think flashbacks and all that, that's always existed. But this way, like, almost like half of the movie, it was something very, very fresh, I feel. And
it's also like Bahubali.
Yeah, it is. It's basically Bahubali, but in college, right? I did have one question, first of all, because again, I've not studied in India. Is this college? Is this high school? What is this supposed to be? Where are we? How old are these people?
It's supposed to be undergrad, right?
Because,
they're supposed to be doing 3 years of undergrad, and Tina is coming back from Oxford, leaving her final year of... Nobody says what she's studying there, but she's come back to study her final year of undergrad in Xavier's. So, yeah.
So they're over 18. They're not under 18.
Yeah.
Right.
They're over 18.
Okay.
So they're like supposed to be like around 20, 21, basically.
Right. Okay, then that's fine. Because I was like, wait, are they 17 years old? But anyway, rewatching the movie, there were a lot of moments that I've started accepting these ideas online, but when you watch the movie, you're like, wait, they did actually address this, like initially there's a scene at the funeral pyre where Tina has just died, and they give minutes of, Rahul and Tina's life together, right?
Yeah.
That she gets pregnant, you see their wedding, you see them, waiting for Anjali. And I'd forgotten those little sequences, and I was like, oh, it really made me sad, like, losing your wife and kind of flashing back, and they said that very quickly, that world, and I thought it was very effective filmmaking, like, in a way, like framing
and it opens strong, like it takes balls to start off with a fucking funeral fire in the movie, and it's your debut movie. Like Karan Johar, the way he's achieved so many things in this movie is, you said the multiple threads and stuff. I think I saw an interview where he talks about he had these two stories, a story about a father and his daughter and this love triangle, and then he one day clicked that these can be told in a single narrative, and that's what led to the birth of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. And it's just like he probably wrote it in his early 20s and then got to eventually make it and release it when he was 24. So
And like what Amrita was saying earlier, like I think Karan himself deries this movie a lot, like he's very critical of it, but I just don't think it's fair. I think he's using it as a defense mechanism in a way. You don't make fun of it, I'll make fun of it, but
only because it's got that whole meme culture behind it, people have, just like Sholay, everybody wants to, because there's a lot of joy to be had in that.
But I think he should be proud of this movie. That's what I wanted to say. It was good work.
But he's also talked about, like, very openly, he's talked about how he made this movie in a very Bollywood kind of way, in that is sector mein ye khelega, sector mein ye khelega, like, like he was trying to do the Manmohan Desai trick of just like constructing a movie that would play in every part of the country and was designed to be a blockbuster.
So
that was also like part of Yash Johar, like whispering near him, beta ye bhi karna, probably like, pulling out all the tricks out from his producer's sleeve to make sure that Kuch Kuch Hota Hai works.
Probably another thing that we are seeing on the screen, because it's like, maybe that's why it like lasts for so long, because it like hits all those notes that are very familiar to us, like the when she's in trouble, then like she goes and she does the namaz and like the meet cute in the temple and everything. Like it's very like it's sort of, I was watching it and I was just like, this is so old school India, like you don't watch movies like these anymore.
Also pseudo secularist.
I think like the patriotism and kind of the religious thread, those were felt it was a bit maybe forced, like the patriotism, I feel, but the religion part, I felt it was built in, like later on, because there's like you see Farida Jalal shaming one of her friends in her religious gathering, and then Rahul does the same thing to Tina. So she's definitely Farida Jalal's son. Like this family is basically just shaming people about their lack of religion, and he's also going to the mandir. So it is kind of built in a way when you think about it. Right? Like,
Rupa Gayatri Mantra bhul gayi?
That one. And another question that I wanted to ask about to you guys before we get into the Curious Cat questions. Are you watching, is there anything that you feel you're watching it differently now than you did 20 years ago?
Well, I pointed this out yesterday. I didn't discover this or really give it a thought as much, but yesterday, like, the movie starts with little Anjali's birthday, and then she has because the movie takes like a long time in the recap, and by interval time, she gets to realize that she needs to go and visit her Nana. And that's the same day. And I just realized that because Tina dies after giving birth to little Anjali, like when Anjali celebrates her birthday, when she has to go to her Nana for the birthday of her mom, and that made me really sad.
I Go
I
ahead.
think what really like stood out to me this time is like how much Shah Rukh cries in this film.
Yeah.
Like he is like literally just like watering the plants all throughout this movie. Like
Puppy eyes, Shah Rukh.
so much. Like it begins with him crying at like Tina's funeral, and then it just never stops. Like he's crying at the interval, he's crying at the climax, he's crying in between. Like he's just crying. I don't think I've seen a Hindi film hero cry as much as Shah Rukh does in this film.
I also realized one other thing. Like everybody who in this movie who is made to run, the soundtrack in the background is the Kuch Kuch Hota Hai title track, but with dholaks and daflis.
My thing, two things I kind of noticed was how much I used to identify with young Rahul to a certain degree back in the day, and with Kajol. Right? I think Kajol is pretty much Karan Johar, like in the first half of this movie. This is autobiographical, clearly. But how much now I identify with, older Shah Rukh, and kind of losing his wife and raising this daughter on his own and being so close. Obviously, it's a given that I would think like the daughter is 6, it's like, like I just identify so much, like, those scenes that used to work about हमारे पास सब कुछ माँ नहीं है बस पापा बुरे नहीं है. I was like if I talk about it, I'll start crying now, those things hit me so hard this time. The one thing that doesn't work, I feel, is that the character of Anjali, in a way, the young Anjali, because again, this was written by Karan Johar, who was 24, who has no idea what a 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid does. So, she's watching the Neelam show, which is totally inappropriate for an 8-year-old, clearly. But I think the actress does a really good job, though. For an 8-year-old, like, I think a lot of times kids can be super precocious, and I feel she strikes that right balance. But I think a lot of people do not like young Anjali, but I think it's again kind of an age thing too, because they are younger and they feel kids are annoying, gande gande bache. But again, having a kid around that age, I don't know, I found it sweet. So Amrita, you picked a few topics, right? So the first one we have is, should we just go?
Actually, can we just start with Ruchi? Because like Ruchi has like a list of questions that she would like to.
Yes, let's start with Ruchi's questions.
Ruchi is our friend, and as soon as she heard that we were doing this episode, she was first in line. So Ruchi, this is especially for you. Her first question is, तुम सब प्यार के बारे में क्या जानते हो? क्या है? I want everyone's views.
प्यार दोस्ती है. So here's the thing, right? Every single Bollywood movie, when they show a college scene, it's either some really complex maths problem or somebody talking about Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
But
why is that?
But in Kejo's world, they're talking about Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, I know, right?
But it's just so Kejo. Like, like no mention of Shakespeare, nothing, no quotes, no lines from the play, just Leonardo DiCaprio and, that was hilarious. That was so Kejo, man. Amrita, प्यार क्या होता है?
प्यार दोस्ती है, Asim, obviously. Question 2. On a scale of 1 to 100, how annoying is Anjali Jr.? Now, this is actually a very, very common question. Like, lots of other people have also written in, and they've also said how much they hate Anjali Jr. But as Asim just said, he actually likes Anjali Jr., right?
I like Bachche, I think I kind of appreciate them. And I think also just kind of like, the identification factor for me, like works, like, these things work for me, the Dangal girls, that, gets me. Bajrangi Bhaijaan carrying Munni everywhere gets me, it's just the theme, that hits me strong. And like I just earlier said, I think it is an 8-year-old written by a 24-year-old guy. And then that guy is Karan Johar. So a lot of the things she is doing and the mannerism she has is because of him, the way she's written. But it's hard, man. It's hard to have, like, how many kids do you know in movies that you aren't annoying, you know? I don't think there's that many. Munni from Bajrangi, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But Munni can't talk, and Anjali is like, "मगर आपको तो पता है, मुझे singing और dancing का कितना शौक है."
Yeah, that's sweet though.
She is manipulative as fuck.
Yeah, but she needs to, man. Like, what else? What is she gonna do? Like, how else is she gonna get a mom?
That's what growing up without a mother does to you.
Yeah, like that shot when she finally sees Anjali the first time, and just for a second she sees Tina. Oh my god, man, that got me this time. Again, one of those shots that I totally forgotten. But because they're also very styled similarly in that sequence of the movie, right? Like the middle parting and the long hair and the same kind of shalwar kameezes she's wearing in her photo shoots. Yeah, that little shot, it really worked for me. Like, okay, I get why this kid is acting this way. But
But I've got a question. How did little Anjali, when Sajan Ji Ghar Aaye plays, right, and she's arrived at her Nana Ji's on the train, how the fuck did she realize that Anjali was wearing the white salwar kameez with the red dupatta? How is she wearing the same outfit?
Because I thought like Rani described it. Like,
in the letter.
Rani was there. Rani was there, right, when she left, and then she gets dupatta. That's how she like leads the dupatta.
Which leads us to how descriptive was Rani's letters? Like, how much of a reliable narrator is Ratina?
Beta, I was wearing a silver outfit. It ended somewhere around my vagina. We were dancing, and that is when your father fell in love with me.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Those outfits were short, man. Oh my god, that was another thing that like really like stood out to me, like just how shiny and short that the Tina's outfits were. Yeah. But anyway, do you have anything more to add, Asim?
Oh, I'll probably get back into it. Like, I don't know what else I can say. I think the kid was sweet, man. I don't know what you guys have problem. You guys are all heartless people. That's why you keep asking कि प्यार क्या होता है. You guys still haven't figured it out.
Well, it's definitely not Anjali Jr. Question number 3, is Rahul a cheater or not? Or is Anjali a cheater? Poor Salman. So a lot of people have like talked about how they're like Team Aman, right?
I think also a lot of people asked me like even this morning, is Rahul a fuckboy? I think those are like all variations of the same question.
See, in Kejo's world of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, nobody really until they are properly married. Okay, so Rahul is all around town dating women, but only tying friendship bands. Let's be clear about that.
So one person is like, first of all, everyone should know that Anjali Khanna is as annoying as Rahul Khanna. She was the main cause of Aman and Anjali's breakups. If she wasn't there, Anjali would probably be with Aman. Team Aman. And another person says that Tina should have included some very important disclaimers in caps. That 1, check if Anjali is engaged or married or seeing anybody when or if they meet. 2, if the answer to number 1 is yes, do not proceed. Don't interfere in Anjali Senior's life. Do you think, like, what would have happened if, like, Anjali was married? Do you think, like, Anjali Jr. would have been like, well, you know, do over. We'll just have to break you up. Like, do you think that would have been a strategy for Anjali Jr.?
I mean, the thing is, like, this movie definitely has some easy storytelling devices in it, right? And I think you just have to accept those, you know, the letters, the way they're written, the way it is, and I don't know. I think, I have trouble with a lot of the criticism. Like, I understand that, you know, Aman was good for Anjali, but being in a marriage, guys, where only one person loves the other person is not a good marriage base. Like that, like I would advise you all to not get married if you're not in love with the person you're marrying. Like just generally, this is not a good way to have a solid basis. So in a way, I'm okay with the fact that Aman and Anjali broke up because, Aman was getting gaslighted basically.
Yeah, Aman would lead a horrible, terrible, miserable life.
Yeah, he'd be constantly asking mother-in-law, she still doesn't love me, we have 3 babies. And now she hates the babies because she doesn't love me.
So I think I don't think Rahul is a cheater. If we're talking about I think Rahul's a cheater when it comes to
Basketball.
Yeah, but I don't think Rahul's a cheater otherwise. I think Rahul is quite the opposite. I think Rahul is a fuddy-duddy idiot.
Yeah.
But I think Anjali is definitely a cheater. I think Anjali is a huge cheater.
Yeah.
Anjali is just I'll settle with this nice guy, and then her pehla pyar comes back and she's like, oh, I can do this. And then she runs back when she remembers her morals. She runs back and she's like, I'll get married, not because I love Aman, but I just don't want to be the horrible kind of person sexes up my ex-boyfriend, my ex-BFF while engaged to my to this very nice person that my mother loves. So again, I think that's just Kejo and his complicated moralities coming up for air.
Well, I think a few people also kind of came up with the idea that, Rahul only likes Anjali now that she's desified, now that she's wearing a sari and she's a good girl and, long hair. That's another comment that I don't necessarily agree with. I want to hear your thoughts though, Sujoy.
I don't know. It's complicated though, right? Because Rahul only loved Tina when she was around, and he was, as we said, he was in his 20s and they got married and all that. And it's been 8-10 years even, since he's seen Anjali, and he's just got back to seeing his best friend, and then they just hit it off just like old times. And as fate would have it, he's falling in love with her because he's not had anybody as a love interest because he's just been busy being a father, I suppose. So, let's not just read into things like, Rahul is only loving Anjali because she's wearing a sari. But yeah, that could be a part of it.
I think it's definitely plays into this whole movie trope. And Kejo can be very misogynistic and some of the things that he puts across in his movies. And definitely in his in his real life, if you watch Coffee with Karan, that whole show is just a disaster from start to finish. But anyway, there's definitely this trope that I think Kejo constructed into the movie, and he's been very upfront about it. That in the second half of the movie, he wanted his heroine to look like a heroine, and he couldn't deal with how ugly she was in the first part. So, which is basically almost word for word what he said in one of the the 20-year interviews or something, or maybe the interviews that came out around the time of the film's release. But it's definitely that's how I think he intended it to be. She's the ugly duckling who becomes this beautiful swan, and she wears the Yash Chopra sari and is so and so. But I think he also makes a good case of saying that he might be attracted to her now, but they have this really strong emotional connect.
Yeah.
Back when they were in college, he's definitely devastated when she leaves him and goes away.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that he says to her is not that he wants to get with her or how hot she is or anything, but one of the first things that he says is when I needed a friend, I couldn't find my friend.
Yeah.
Which is a very deep and really significant thing to say to somebody, that I wanted you in my sorrows, which is a very different thing than saying that I wanted you to participate in my happiness. So I think that's something.
I think that I love that whole sequence of that movie, like just them meeting up and stuff like that. And I love the kind of simmer, like like you see a friend after a long time, and you fall back into those old patterns and rhythms. But it's been so long that they don't know them anymore, right? Like, should we hug? Should we not hug? And I love that simmering resentment that there even was, because you have that, like any friend that you lose touch with, you kind of almost resent them, like, fuck did you go, But I did also, like, then also now not figure out, like, and I think this is kind of a writing thing maybe, and I think maybe this is where people have then issues, because they immediately start saying stuff like, tum nahi mile na, isliye maine shaadi nahi kari. I was like, when did they ever have this dynamic where they're like, because I felt like in the college they had no sexual or innuendo or like jokes, or he didn't even see her as a girl, right? So there was none of that, but suddenly they share this superstition about tootte tare, and ke, like he says, pyar zindagi mein ek hi baar hota hai, and she finishes the thought. I was like, when did they ever connect on that thought or something like that in college? Because that never was the case. So I love that scene, but it was kind of it was a bit muddled. I feel maybe, but I don't think when they immediately meet they fall in love. Right? After 20 years, after how many years? 8 years, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they fall in love. It's just that, wow, I'm seeing this, my best friend, and they look so different, and I didn't think they would be here, I think that's kind of the emotion that's more played there. I love that, Farida Jalal just takes the aarti from Kajal, is like, beti idhar de de. Like, I know my beta is super hot. I don't think that Rahul is an asshole. Like, I don't agree with that reading at all, to be honest.
I think we are all like everybody's team. We support everyone, really. What happened at the end of the movie was good for everyone. Team Aman dodged a bullet by not being in a miserable marriage with somebody who does not love him back.
Yeah.
And Rahul and Anjali ended up together. So little Anjali has a mother, and Rahul has somebody who he loves, and Anjali finally got her love back.
Yeah.
So yay, everyone.
And also it made me remind of Ae Dil Hai Mushkil to a certain degree, that Kejo's movies have messy endings, man. He does not stick to the landing at the end of his movies. Like Shah Rukh just showing up and just basically crying. That was his whole strategy. It was very Channa Mere when you think about it.
Little Anjali crying was the strategy.
Yeah, where was the Gamla, man? We need some Gamle here.
I like something I realized while watching this movie yesterday was that I have not watched the whole movie in a very, very long time. And I just suddenly realized that after once summer camp begins, this movie starts to drag a lot.
Yeah.
That's because like you want like the two of them to like just get together and like they just have like all these kid related activities in it where you're just like, I don't care.
And Johnny Lever appears from somewhere, and
although that scene where like he calls Queen Victoria mummy, like that still cracks me up. Like, I'm sorry, my sense of humor is low, but that was funny.
No, I'll agree with you on that. When Raghupati Raghav is playing, right, and he's on doing Aarti with the Manjira, and he starts crying as the poster of Queen Elizabeth on the floor. I just cracked up.
Why did this set a trend for this kind of upbeat religious bhajans, like this movie? Like, because it reminded me of that song from Krish 3, where they also had like a
Raghupati Raghav.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if this is like, there's a few of these, right? Like, this happens quite often or no? Like, yeah, I didn't like it.
So my theory about this is that Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was basically, and also like the what's his face Aditya Chopra's movies, like Karan Johar and Aditya Chopra basically brought like religious stuff back into like Bollywood as something that was like cool and desirable and like something in that like, you know, like this is like, you know, like our culture and like our culture. But I think their intentions were noble, but what they basically ended up saying was like Indian culture is like Hindu culture.
Yeah.
And therefore like that's amazing. And that was sort of reinforced in popular culture by Ekta Kapoor in her serials.
Yeah.
And then like it is, and then after a while, it didn't matter if you were watching like a show with like Hindu characters or with Muslim characters. They were all from like incredibly orthodox conservative households. So if you were a Muslim character, you were like, you know, adabing each other like 10 times in every scene, and you were doing namaz constantly, and like you only like talk to each other as if you were born in the 19th century. And then if you were Hindu, then you were like wearing ghungats, and you had like half a ton of sindoor, and like you were constantly doing puja, and like your entire social life was around puja. I don't doubt that there are like Orthodox religious households in India today, whether they're like Christian or Muslim or Hindu. I do not think that I feel like they're overrepresented in popular culture, and that trend began with Aditya Chopra and with Karan Johar. Like, if you watch, like, Yash Chopra's movies, he, like, apart from that one thing in, like, Jab Tak Hai Jaan, which, by the way, was written by Aditya Chopra. But, like, if you look at his movies, like Chandni and, like, Dar, or, like, even Dil To Pagal Hai, like, none of those movies, like, care anything about religion. Like,
true.
Yeah.
Nobody is keeping, like, Karwa Chauth and, like, doing things or anything. Like, nobody cares. Even the wedding in Chandni is, like, basically, like 50 people in like around this fire, like, you know, it's like it's very different. So yeah, that's
True.
my feeling.
Any other question from Ruchi? I think we need to start like speeding this down. Otherwise
We basically just talk about Ruchi.
No, Ruchi basically asked also if we could rename this episode as the Neelam Show in honor.
Was Neelam Show based on something real, or?
No,
it seems like a very
just
Channel V
fictional
kind
stuff.
of program.
Yeah, it was kind of like an MTV Channel V show, because that was a phase when all these MTV shows were the buzz and being a VJ was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I still don't understand why Neelam. Like, how did he come across Neelam? Like,
Yeah.
That's the most random thing that
I think Neelam used to do a show called Ooh La La or something on Star Plus. Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Interesting. Yeah. And then did she also ask us about who would we recast, or was that not Ruchi?
No. So that was like
Somebody
a whole
else.
bunch of
Okay,
there was
okay.
other people, and they all wanted to know if we who we would recast in this film.
So I'm totally against the idea of having this remade, because I don't think anybody in Bollywood has the star power yet to pull off a movie like Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Sorry. Like neither of those roles, like Salman, Shah Rukh, Kajol, or Rani Mukherjee.
Yeah, that's what other people have said in Curious Cat as well. Like, you know, like there's literally nobody who has that kind of star power.
But they didn't have that star power then either, right? When this movie was made.
No, but they were like the people who would have this kind of star power. You know? Like I've always said this about Shah Rukh. Like, from the moment you saw him in Deewana, like you couldn't pull your eyes away from him. Like, you could hate him, you could love him, but you could never deny the fact that he had that it quality. You know?
Yeah, and all of that, each of those players coming together in this movie just fit.
Yeah. But I think some people would maybe say that Ranveer has that quality, Ranveer Singh.
He does to like some extent, but like you said, you know, like he runs out of steam midway sometimes.
Like we just talked about Shah Rukh just puppy eye crying all across this movie. I don't see anybody else being able to do that. You know, it would just get annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
And who would be able to play this kind of also like what Kajal does, you know, like very kind of a nerdy, dumpy girl in the first half, and then like in the second half she becomes, you know, what she is. Like it's tough casting. I don't know if anybody from the recent crop really because the established actresses are already so glamorous and beautiful. I don't see them even like even Pari. Like if I think about that, where Anushka went de-glam, she looked really great still, like for a Bhutni, she looked really great.
Bhutni.
That's a hot Bhutni, man.
I mean, Bhumi Pednekar, Radhika Apte, but still don't have that.
Yeah, like they're like, I can think of a lot of women who would be really great as like either first half Anjali or as second half Anjali. Like, but I can't really think of anybody who would be great in like both those.
Yeah.
Like I guess like Deepika came closest in Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, but that wasn't really anywhere like this. Like she basically had glasses in the first half.
Yeah, I thought that was the worst. One of the worst thing about that movie.
Deepika wears a glass and everybody calls her Chashmish.
Yeah.
That's the fakest shit ever.
Yeah. And can I just say, guys know this shit. They know which girl is hot without the glasses. We have planning. We set our foundation for when she takes off those glasses, I'm going to be there.
Oh, dear.
It's very like Clark Kent in that movie.
It's a tough one, but also if you really like, I think Deepika and stuff, they're already too established. I think if we need to go like in the Jhanvi and the Sara Ali Khan kind of mold, age bracket, I don't know how I would recast this, like it's a tough one.
Like maybe Sarah could do it. I don't know. I haven't actually seen Sarah in a movie yet, so I
and I guess Jhanvi could do the Tina character then, right? Because she's kind of like really pretty kind of girl coming in. So we've got the girl set. Like we have some potentials there.
And then Kartik Aaryan playing Shah Rukh Khan.
Kartik Aaryan can play Almeida for my money.
Oh man.
But like I think like one of the big things is like so much of this movie is like based on like some of it like is like really based on those people's real life characters.
Yeah.
So like Kajol is actually that jhalli kind of person who can also like clean up really good.
Yeah.
Like she really is that woman.
Yeah.
And Salman was basically Salman.
Yeah.
And then Shah Rukh can actually portray vulnerability more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And then Rani was actually that very shy, sort of like ladylike kind of person, like even in real life at that point.
Yeah.
Like she hadn't learned to like, she wasn't married to Adi Chopra at that time, and she wasn't like at round tables telling people how like sexual assault allegations could be solved with karate chops. So that was all like a very different... It was a very different time.
Yeah. Tiger Shroff for Saman's role.
Oh dear. Moving on.
Okay.
So Sammy Lipstick Patrol, who's our friend on the podcast, she says, I know Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is in retrospect regarded as a flawed film, but I think people, especially those new to Hindi films and not overtly familiar with Desi culture, need to fully understand just how seminal and important that film is culturally and how impactful it was at the time it released. It had the whole industry shook and changed the way Desis viewed and looked at Hindi cinema and also the way Hindi filmmakers made films. DDLJ was a flag bearer of change in that plot centered around romance, and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai took that further by taking away the factor of interfering orthodox parents, which were a staple in Hindi film up to that point, and centered the conflict around the personalities of the characters themselves. It was completely devoid of violence at a time when violent films were the norm. It also reinforced what would come to be common shooting songs overseas or focusing on upper-class elite Indians, something Kejo would take further with his future films by focusing on rich NRIs. Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was also highly influential in terms of fashion. It brought Western brands into mainstream at a time when the Indian economy was being opened up for investment and introducing an influx of Western brands into different markets. Kejo actually set the now commonplace practice of costume designers traveling overseas to source outfits for actors to wear in the film. For all the jokes and tanes that Kejo gets nowadays, you can't deny his game-changing ways and the tone he set for future films with his directorial debut. on the whole, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is a film that changed Hindi cinema as a whole and also changed what Desi audiences watched and expected from their films.
You did need to do that in a New Zealand accent, though. So do you want to add like a mate at the end? Wait.
Mate.
Mate. We tease because we love Sammy.
Yeah.
I don't even think Kiwis say mate. That's Australian.
I was purposefully doing a bad impression.
Which we...
Into your big pick.
So like I agree with Sammy in that like this is like an excellent introduction film for people who don't know anything about Hindi cinema. Like I remember showing this to kids that I was rooming with in college in New York, and you should have seen these like very tough, sarcastic, ironic New Yorker kids, and they were all like watching this movie, and by the end they were like sobbing, and they were like, they better get together. Like super invested in this film. So it does work. And I think like a lot of the non-Indians who follow Bollywood online, they actually saw Kuch Kuch first. I think that was like one of the first movies that they saw, and that got them into it.
It's funny because I posted like on the U podcast page on my page that we were doing this Curious Cat, and I had friends from college that I have not spoken with in ages, and they were liking the post because I remember that I had shown them this movie, and it still kind of struck a chord 20 years later. So it definitely is something that it's a very kind of like it's a good kind of portal movie, and it seems to be something that affects people, even non-Desi. So I definitely agree with everything Sammy is saying here.
And also the whole point about the aesthetic and the look of 90s Bollywood just changed overnight with Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
And not only in movies, but also on TV, like what you were saying about Ekta Kapoor, so many of these dramas and serials are taking over that kind of cinematic language or kind of that setting. Maybe also Hum Aapke Hain Kaun a little bit in there. And like 20 years later, they're still kind of copying that template, So it's very, very influential.
And we have to also mention that we have at least like two friends who were super influenced by this film, to the point where like one of them was wearing the cool necklace. So shout out to Zenny and to Ananta.
Fashion choices from before that we now regret.
The fanny pack.
Yeah. I still wear the fanny pack with joy, with pride, man. I don't care.
Did you wear a friendship bracelet to us?
No, and nobody ever gave me any. Are we going back to the main questions of the Curious Cat now? So the first one is, this movie is problematic. And I think this was said by a few people. I think we've dealt with a few of these issues. Amrita, do you think this movie is problematic?
I mean, they're like definitely like... That's like a good question.
What points are problematic? Let's go about it that way, because there are definitely, right? Like we had this whole idea about this, how Kejo's sometimes misogynistic, traditional, paternalistic views seep into his show and into his movies. So I think that's definitely there a bit into Anjali's transformation. But I also feel it's also kind of like an ugly duckling fantasy, right? Like, isn't that why we go to school reunions? Because we were the dumpy person, and now we want to look at me now as a guy. Now I'm VP of something at, consulting company, and, I have a 6-figure salary now. But then I used to be, the fat kid eating rolled up parathes, that kind of thing. Or, I think it's just kind of like fantasy for a lot of people there too. So I don't know about that one.
I think the more larger question is like, who is worthy of love? And that is basically in pretty much every single Kejo movie, like that is where he stumbles, because I don't think think he has any idea as a human being how to address that question himself. And I think you see that reflected in his movies. And that's actually kind of sad more than it's problematic. And then also, like, Anjali, like, never stands up for herself. Like, she never tells Rahul, like, how she feels. She never tells anybody, like, she tells Rifat B, I guess, कि मेरा पहला प्यार
Rifat B is no help whatsoever. I'm telling you.
She does namaz every time anyone tells her to do anything, or like.
Yeah.
How did she not screen that outfit? Because definitely she's like always telling her, you know, like, beti kapde pehen, dhang ke kapde pehen, and there's like a moment where she's like picking out an earring and trying it out. How did Rifat B let her go out of the house in that orange thing that she was wearing? That's why she didn't get invited to the engagement, man. She only got invited to the wedding.
But also, like, at the end, like, when Anjali's like, she like literally just stops and like waits for somebody to like marry her.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell was that? So yeah, like, all that kind of stuff is like really problematic to me. And also, like, this idea of like a mother, like, Tina knew all this, but instead of Tina like treating Rahul like a grown-up and just saying that, look, get your shit together, you've got a daughter, you're a grown-ass man, like, do something about this. She instead is like, Beti, like, you take care. Like, she dumps it all on the head of an 8-year-old, which is, again, like, you know, this whole infantilization of men is just grating to me.
There was this old interview with Sanjay Leela Bhansali and Karan Johar, and Bhansali basically goes head on with Karan Johar, asking why those 8 letters. Why did it take Tina 8 whole years? Why did she take the luxury of waiting 8 years and being confident that Kajol would still be unmarried, you know?
Okay, I just have to say that the idea of Sanjay Leela Bhansali taking somebody else to task over logic, that is just, I don't even know what to call it. Like, just stop. Go home and watch your own movies.
But it's tough, man. Like, when they hit the teens, they're not interested in their parents anymore. Like, mare jiye, shadi kare, I don't care, you know. So you have like a small window, you know. So she only had 8, 9, maybe 10. Like, those were the ages that she could do something about it. But yeah, also this came up a lot. Like, okay, I might cut this out, and maybe I've mentioned this before, or maybe I've cut this out. I have an email account for my daughter. I send her emails to it, and she obviously doesn't have the password. She doesn't have email. And the idea is, when she's 18, I'm going to give her the password. So she will have emails from her 18 years that she can kind of read, you know, what life was like. So I am a little bit like Tina in that idea. So, but the thing is, like, they can go back, like, the year 1 letter. Like, I understand she's a baby, she doesn't understand the year 1 letter, but when she's year 4, she can still go back and read those letters and kind of, you know, get an understanding about what's going on and how much mama loves her. You are all heartless people for thinking these things.
No, what I'm saying is, why did Tina take 8 long years to address the point? Why not write a letter straight away to Rahul's mom saying, oh, get him hitched with Anjali straight away?
Yeah, because he's not ready, man. Like, you know, like, it takes time to, like, he has this belief that I'm gonna just love one woman, and he's forgotten Anjali actively, but passively she lives with him, you know, still. And he doesn't realize that. Like, I love, like, where the whole flashback happens, and then immediately there's like a puja between Farida Jalal. Farida Jalal is doing puja, and then the first time you see young Anjali and Rahul together, they're doing the high five that he does with other Anjali. And we'd never seen that before, you know, and it was just this idea that, you know, Tina had definitely planted some seeds there. And why did she make him call Anjali, you know? Because she did kind of plant that seed to, you know, keep Anjali alive in Rahul's brain, because she knew something that Rahul didn't know. And like, again, if I put myself in that position, so I can totally understand that Rahul thing that he's not even thinking about it, and it's just this idea that, more and more that also Farida brings up, that Anjali needs a mom. And that's kind of the catalyst and kind of start of how this whole thing happens. Just so sad.
Which is, again, like, really problematic for me, because I'm just like, really, like, I have to say, first of all, like, I don't think he thinks of her as like a possible replacement mom. Like, I don't think like that's how, like, that's a bonus. That's not a feature. As far as Rahul is concerned, because Rahul is very much in love with his best friend. Like, that's what, and that's what Tina keeps saying, like, I became your father's friend, but I couldn't become his best friend. So, like, Tina obviously thinks also that the two of them had a deeper connection and stuff. But if, like, this whole thing is, like, engineered so that Rahul can have a wife, so somebody can be a mother to little Anjali, like, that for me is just like Anjali Senior deserves better, like, even though she's a cheater and, like, this is what she gets for cheating on Aman. So, yeah. Sorry, Asim.
No, I'm just kind of like still identifying with Shah Rukh, and I was just like kind of lost in that thought. Like, still, I don't care about all the things you said.
This also brings into light that this movie cannot be remade in today's day and age, where we have
social media,
WhatsApp, right? And social media and everything, and emails, because this movie heavily relied on letters. And Anjali totally ghosted Rahul for 8 or 9 or 10 years.
I thought you were going to say that we can't have this movie because we're all bitches now and we'll never let it live. Like, the moment we got out of the movie, the moment we're in the movie theater at, like, interval, we'll be like, kya bakas hai? Aat chittiyan bech di hai. Like, how does this work? Like, we'll be, like, figuring out the logistics by interval. So, yeah, that was also true. Let's talk about Salman's, Asim's favorite topic.
Should I just talk for 2 hours, or should we?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I think this is, like, we've heard the stories, right, from Kejo, that he asked everybody to take on this role and nobody wanted to do it. And he's like, how
even Chandrachud Singh
didn't want to take this role. And how grateful he is to Salman, who typically in Salman fashion accepted this role because he kind of liked his Karan's dad. I think he knocked this one out of the park, man. Like, this is like, first of all, like, again, coming back to what you said about social media, there is no way that they could have kept this secret that Salman was in this, right? I had no clue, like, the first time I watched this movie. And I still feel the same level of excitement watching this movie now at Salman's entry as I did 20 years ago, because it's done so well. Because those first shots are kind of like point of view angles, like, it's through the eyes of Salman and everybody's reacting to Salman coming in. And then you see him from the back, and then it's Salman dancing, and then he does that little Salman variation of a dance. Like, they do the, what's the lyric again? Dulhan to Sharmaye. Yeah, Dulhan to Sharmaye. And Salman does this variation like Salman does on a dance step, like making his eyes bigger and doing it slightly silly. And you just get the full impact of, oh my God, Salman Khan is in this movie. It is one of the best entries ever. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, or kind of part of how films are promoted right now. I think everybody would go full on at the PR circles and making film promotions and doing the tours of, visiting cities and visiting, television shows promoting the film. Back in the day, the pull of the film was like, there is a surprise element. And that's why when audiences were surprised to see a new a character or an actor who was not part of the film poster, that was like the word of mouth, how that spread. Oh my God, Salman is in this movie.
Yeah. Like, look at Zero, right? I knew that Deepika was in it and Sridevi was in it, like, even before I bought my ticket to the movie, right? Oh, sorry, I spoiled this maybe for you, Amrit. I don't know if you watched it.
I also knew. So
okay. I mean, even go back to Talash, if you think about it. Remember? Like, I don't want to spoil Talash, but again, social media messed that one up for a lot of people.
But like, I also noticed like one other thing is that like when there's two things that I noticed. Like one was like, if it wasn't Salman in this film, like I don't think that whole Aman track would have worked.
Yeah.
Because you needed somebody to be like a real threat to Shah Rukh in the romantic department.
Yeah.
So it really worked that it was Salman, because you were just like, oh shit, like, you know, like Rahul doesn't really have much of a chance, does he? Like he's up against Salman, and that's before you realize that Anjali's a cheater.
Yeah.
So like that really works. And the other thing is that I noticed this in this one, and then I was just like going back to like all the other movies that I've seen them in, and I think like is it just me, or is like, do Shah Rukh and Salman, when they're on screen, do they just share a very odd energy between the two of them? Like it seems kind of like two cats that are like circling each other. Like
I think they've gotten better now. I understand what you're saying then, but I think now they are like lovers. Like lovers that should be united. Back then, I think there was maybe a little bit of, you know, status kind of, like Salman is also like, I'm sure he's uncontrollable. Like that basketball scene where he's like, too good, dude. You're like Michael Jordan, dude. Clearly Salman was not listening to any instructions, just doing his own thing, right? So where Shah Rukh, like he's like super, you know, ambitious, and he has an idea about how he wants to do things, I guess. So I think that's maybe some like energy that's not gelling. It's like, oh my God, who could have beat you? It's like, Anjali? Meri Anjali? Is he making fun of him? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, Chandrachud Singh wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, Chandrachud Singh would not. And yeah, also somebody mentioned this a few times on The Curious Cat. I think he has great chemistry with kids. He has great chemistry with aunties and moms and stuff like that. And I also think he's good with Kajol, to be honest. I like them two together here, and I also really like them together in Pyar Kiya To Darna Kya, and I feel they're a better pairing than Kajol and Amir for sure, I feel. So it's just, I think because the Kajol Shah Rukh Khan pair was so strong, maybe we didn't get enough Salman Kajol movies, because those could have been good too. But
also, like, somebody on the CC was talking about, like, how Salman never gets the credit for Kuch Kuch, because there's, like, a bunch of movies that I don't know exactly which one he's talking about, but he's, like, there's, like, a bunch of movies that Salman was probably there for, like, maybe 2 scenes, and then he gets, you know, like, it gets called, like, Salman movie, and then if it flops, and they're like, oh, Salman ki movie flop ho gayi, which is something that happens to, like, all the Khans, I think. Like, I think that's why they've sort of reduce the number of special appearances that they've been doing over the years, because they'll do something to like help out a friend and be like, okay, I'll come up for like 5 minutes, and then everyone's like, oh, it's like, you know, Shah Rukh ki movie, Salman ki movie, and then it's just some sort of like C-list thing. And he's there, and this person that wrote into The Curious Cat was like, well, how come Salman doesn't get any of the credit for Kuch Kuch? But I think he does get credit for the Kuch Kuch. Like, everybody that talks about, like, it is true that it cemented Shah Rukh's career more than it did Salman's career, and we think of it as a quintessentially Shah Rukh movie, because Shah Rukh was a lead.
It is Shah Rukh's movie. I don't think we can take that away.
By the way, Salman won the Filmfare Best Supporting Actor for this. So
you can't, like, I don't think he's ignored for this film. Like, I don't think anybody's forgotten that he was in this film.
And every celebration, every interview Kejo does, he brings it up, though. And then Salman also brings up that Karan hasn't worked with Salman since, after doing him this massive favor, which I think is awesome of Salman to remind Karan and shame him for it.
But also, like Kejo talks about how like, you know, Dayalu Salman was and everything, but he also talks about how he was like, he was given the royal runaround by Salman as well. Like, it wasn't like the easiest.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it in the film too, like, you know, like Salman is like, I will do what I want.
Yeah.
And you
Michael Jordan did.
Michael Jordan did.
Like, make your movie around me.
Yeah.
Which, and also since this is one thing that always pisses me off about this movie, and it was like, I don't know what it was. Like every single movie around this time had this, but it's when we were talking about fashion, the suit sleeves.
Oh God.
There's like two people can fit inside those suits. What the
Why
hell
is everybody wearing oversized suits here in this movie? Everybody.
It felt very Manish Malhotra though. Like it's the look that they also had in Dil To Pagal Hai. And even a few of the costumes that Rani is wearing felt exactly like what Madhuri was wearing in Dil To Pagal Hai. Like this very long kind of thing and open in the front. I think it was the styling of that time. The two things that I did notice is that I think Salman has probably done the most cameos for Friends in like of all of the Khans. And secondly, how many times Salman doesn't get the girl at the end of the movie? There's so many of them. Like, you know, Sajan, Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam, Tere Naam, this one, Mayor Mrs. Khanna. You know, like, it's definitely a theme that Salman has.
Speaking of fashion, like in Raghupati Raghav, right? Shah Rukh is wearing a giant trench coat and running across the bridge. Somebody on CC pointed about there being a theme of Shah Rukh running in slow motion across the bridge.
Yeah, that was known. Yeah. That was a thing. That was a thing that even Shah Rukh had this feeling that if I run, the movie will be a hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that why Shah Rukh is credited as Thrills by Shah Rukh Khan?
Yeah, I think so. That was it.
Because this movie has no mention of violence whatsoever.
He also choreographed the sports sequences, apparently.
Okay.
The amazing basketball sequence.
Yeah. And the snap editing shots of Kajol tying her shoes.
Okay, next question.
It's just a number of people who are talking about like how much they loved this movie when it first came out, and how it kind of shaped a lot of things in their life at that point, basically. And then like a lot of people were asking us how we felt about this movie when it came out.
Right. I didn't think it would it would change the industry as much as it did. I think that is the part that was really surprising to me. Because I loved the movie. I remember the cassette. I don't know. I remember the cassette of it or the CD of it with that, the way the font of the logo is written, and it was all very high class production, right? It was, I think it was like hardcover CDs and everything looked like,
like a whole total package and thought was had gone into the aesthetic and the typography and the design and the look of this movie. Like it's not going to be a cheap product.
Yeah. And it even said that way, it apart from DDLJ and Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. It just looked like a higher grade product.
The whole publicity stills are still like, set behind, in front of a white background.
Yeah.
And everybody is like wearing Gap and Polo Sport and all that.
Yeah. So that part kind of like surprised me, but I've loved this movie from the first time I've seen it, and I feel every revisit I get something else out of it, and I'm growing and I'm getting still other aspects of the movie that I still like.
My connection with Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, the whole nostalgia factor, the one indelible memory that it brings back is like, so I've seen this multiple number of times at the cinema when I was little, and I went in once with all my cousins together. There were like 20 of us or something, and I had seen this movie twice by then. And when the whole, just before the interval or when Anjali is going away and she throws away the red chunni to Rahul. And I looked to my left and all my sisters, my cousins, they were all bawling their eyes out. So that's my recollection of how Kuch Kuch Hota Hai affected my cousins. and I still make fun of them for that.
Yeah, Shah Rukh, Kajol and trains, man. It's like, it's what makes iconic Hindi cinema.
Speaking of nostalgia though, how awesome is the soundtrack? Like it,
Yeah.
even today, yeah.
Even today, and after hearing it so many times,
Yeah.
it still holds up. It's still great songs. I don't know, I can't even really necessarily pick a favorite song because they're all really, really good.
Yeah. Like like if I really had to, Koi Mil Gaya is my absolute favorite. But then in the movie, if I'm watching Sajan Ji Ghar Aaye and Bhai entering into the movie, that's just like
So
amazing
good.
again.
Yeah.
And then the title track and Tujhe Yaad
Tujhe Yaad Na
Meri
Meri Aayi. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good. So basically, we just don't like Raghupati Raghav. That's
Yeah, pretty much just that. And yeah. And I mentioned yesterday on Twitter, right? I've seen Koi Mil Gaya so many times, and Farah Khan does a awesome job in the choreography. And that one scene, there are a couple of single takes in that whole song, and that one sequence where she is zooming the camera from one quarter to another, and Shah Rukh is basically running under the camera and popping out every single time, like Bugs Bunny. Amazing.
It's so good. Yeah. Amrita, any nostalgia thoughts about it?
Oh my God, so many. I remember the first time I saw this movie, and where I saw it and with whom I saw it.
Did you watch it in theaters?
Yeah. So it was me and my best friend, and it was again one of those things where like we didn't get groped, but like somebody behind us, like some lady got groped, and there was this major scene, and like people got kicked out of the theater and everything.
Oh, wow.
And then I remember like just sitting through the whole thing, and like we both had like stars in our eyes, and it was like this very like it was very much like made for like tweens, like we were teens at that time, like teens of our age, like we were like very much like, oh, like this is what it's like to be in love and everything. And the music was amazing. Like I remember like this is the peak period of the 90s music, right?
Yeah.
Like and unlike the music of today where you need like basically need a PhD in like Chinese opera if you want to hum along. It was like very hummable, and we didn't realize that we were basically going to be like doing these songs in like shadis and mehndis for like the next 20 years when we were hearing this thing. But it was amazing. Like I just remember watching it and what an experience it was. Everybody saw it. Everybody went to the theater. I don't think any of my friends pirated this movie. I think everybody went to the theater. They went with their parents. They went by themselves. Everybody was talking about it at school when we went back. Like it was a major event when it came out.
Like in single screen, audiences are very, very impatient, right? So by the time they think that the climax is over, they're up and they're going away. So I completely missed Mrs. Braganza in the climax when I first saw it. And yesterday I realized, because I was tweeting while I was watching, and I was thinking, whatever happened to Miss Braganza? And they brought her in the climax. Archana Puran Singh is there with a single strand of grey hair.
It did remind me that I did have a teacher in high school that was very much like Miss Braganza. Or we thought she was like Miss Braganza, but she probably wasn't.
This movie also made me realize, like when I was still in my school when this came out, and I was like, I really want to go to St. Xavier's in Mumbai.
Yeah, I was like telling somebody on there's like somebody who wrote in from Brazil, and they were like talking about like how they thought maybe like this is what it was like in India, and I was like, yeah, like there were people in India who thought like maybe this is how it is in like Bombay, like like Xavier's is a real. I remember like Friendship Day became like this big deal after this. Like you would make your own bracelets and everything. It's like it's really stupid for a really long time.
And this movie spawned a huge pirate industry of fake Gap t-shirts and Polo Sport t-shirts.
Yeah. A Gap with a K and a B. Gap. What's your favorite song, actually, Amrita?
I was actually thinking about it, and there were like so many great choices, but like I think it's still the title song, and it's particularly like those two lines, like "Jaane Wafa Ho Ke Beqarar." "Barsson kiya maine tera intezar." Like that line, it's just so beautiful. And I don't think that's like that's basically I think the thing that plays when they have the reunion.
Yeah. That's a sad version in the cassette.
Yeah. And it is still one of my favorite things. Like I'll just find myself like humming it out of the blue, like someday or the other.
Oh, Amrita, you're a softie.
I am a softie. Once you dig deep enough.
After 27 episodes, we found a beating heartbeat in Amrita. And a Shah Rukh movie in Gap shirts did it. Cap shirts.
Yeah. It took like Shah Rukh and Salman and Kajol and Rani to like find a beating heart. But yeah, I think that is still like my favorite thing. And the visuals also of that song are like I love that. I love the visuals of that song as well.
Okay, next, moving on. Rank this movie for Shah Rukh Khan, Kajol, Rani, Salman, and Kejo. How would you put this kind of in? I guess they're looking for, like, is this... I mean, this is, for everybody, it's probably the best work they did. Like, it's up there, right? Maybe not for Salman, because I think Salman is great in the movie, but Salman has done, it's not his movie, I feel.
Yeah.
But even Rani's, is it... Rani leaves... I was going to say Rani leaves more of an impression than Salman does, but that's not true at all.
Well, this launched Rani.
This launched Rani, yeah. It was a good launch, man. She had Gulam at the same kind of time.
I think she did Raja Ki Aayegi Barat, but nobody noticed her in that.
Aditya Chopra did. He's the one that actually recommended Karan Johar watch the song or something like that, not the movie, because the movie is terrible. And then Shah Rukh had also seen her, and both of them thought she's going to be a star.
Raja Ki Aayegi Barat, Amjad Khan's son in it.
It's terrible. That movie is terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is very, very terrible. Yeah.
I didn't know that was his son.
Yeah.
The fuckboy husband, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely up there for Shah Rukh movies. I feel it's like top 5, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean,
definitely.
His like this and DDLJ are like the double punch of like romantic Shah Rukh.
Yeah. And I think it also kind of did, unfortunately for him, solidified that Rahul image, which he then started making fun of with with ads and Farah Khan and stuff like that. I think he got caught up into that a little bit, and I think he probably is a bit annoyed, but it gave him so much money. I think he's happy on that end, I guess. But yeah, Dil To Pagal Hai, a lot more other movies of his. He's pretty much kind of in that same mold, I would say. Kajol, definitely one of our best work. Rewatching the movie, I also just thought how great sad Kajol and grown-up Kajol is, and how terrible young Kajol is. Like, she's like on ecstasy or something like that. I don't know, like, why she's so hyper in those scenes with Tina and stuff like that. But then she's like, there's that shot where she's figured out that Tina and Rahul are gonna get together. And they're at the track meet or something like that. And she's being like a supporter for Rahul. And then Tina comes in. And the desperation in Kajol's voice that she only says, Rahul, juice. And it's the only thing she has to offer Rahul at that moment is that she has juice. It just broke my heart, man. Like that delivery of that line. She's so good. And, like, this movie has so many iconic lines too, like coming back to Kejo, right? You mentioned one in the song, but like, मेरा प्यार पहला प्यार अधूरा रह गया, प्यार जिंदगी में एक ही बार होता है, I don't like jokes, like there's countless of them. Am I forgetting any? Like,
Rahul is a cheater.
But yeah, it's probably also Karan. Like, I just feel Karan gets, he's a better filmmaker than people give him credit for. I really like this movie. And I like most of his movies. So, I was even watching, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna the other day, like just the songs. And it's not bad, that movie. Like, it has issues, but Abhishek is really good in it. What would you change about this movie? Anything we would change about this movie?
I don't really think so, because I think if you change it, then like it becomes something else, right?
Yeah.
And then it's very, like I was talking, like I began this podcast by talking about like how well it holds up structurally and everything, but the story itself is like very much of its time. Like this story could have worked in that particular time in India and like no other time. Like it couldn't have worked like 10 years later, because we were already like very cynical and jaded by that time.
Yeah.
So this requires a certain amount of innocence that was left over from the 80s, and it requires a certain amount of savviness that was like taking us into the 2000s.
Yeah.
And this is that perfect sort of amalgamation where like we weren't really thinking about like what this means or what does this portray, is this problematic, like is this like actually good or any of those things. We were just like, this was like one of those last wave of movies where you were just feeling the movie, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like very old school Bollywood. And I think I wouldn't change any of it because of that. For the same reason why I wouldn't like remake this movie. Like, don't remake it, don't change it, leave it.
So, Joy, anything you would change about the movie?
Not necessarily, but I'd like to mention this post on BuzzFeed by Iman Sheikh. She did quite, I think, last year sometime, about an alternate take on Kuch Kuch Hota Hai with Tina and Anjali are in love.
Yeah, okay. I would make an exception for that one because she really sold me on that.
the fan fiction, rather than, change the movie itself. That would be a different Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
Sorry, what have happened? I missed that part.
So it's a queer love story about Tina and Anjali falling in love together.
Ah, okay. But let's make it bigger then, Rahul falls for Aman, Rifat Bhai falls for Farida Jalal, Almeida falls for Anupam Kher.
Somebody on the Curious Cat did say that Aman and Rahul should have played basketball in the second half, and I choose to interpret it in pretty much the way that you just described.
Michael Jordan, dude.
That was his way. That was his compliment. That was his grinder message. Dude. Oh God. Okay. I think we're done with the Curious Cat questions. I think, do you have any like final and random thoughts that we still have about the movie? Because I have a few.
Go ahead.
We didn't talk about the little kid, the Tusi Mat Jao, because that still works for me.
Okay, Parzan Dastur.
Yeah.
So he came into the limelight because of a Dhara ad.
What's a Dhara ad? Sorry.
So this was a vegetable oil ad that pretty much went viral in that era. So he just had a very iconic line saying Jalebi, and he was the darling of the nation. And Karan Johar had to capitalize on that movement, and then so he cast him as a little his credited as Silent Sardarji Kid.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And he's just effective in that one line. He doesn't speak for the whole movie, and then that one line to see ja rahe ho, to see na jao.
It's still good though. It still works.
So good. Yeah.
I think it's like things like this, like that show you why Kejo is Kejo. Like he has like a very, like at that age by himself, he had like a very strong sense of how to use actors and when to use them. And that's the kind of thing that, I mean, you can try and learn, but it's like, for some people, it's just instinctive. And for like Kejo, it really is instinctive. And that's why I honestly do think like he's one of the major talents of Bollywood.
Yeah.
Whatever, like as Sammy says, like all the tane and like all the jokes we make about Kejo, we still go out and watch a Kejo film when it comes out because we know there's going to be something in it.
Yeah. The other thing, like when they enter Camp Sunshine, Almeida is weighing the kids. Like, is Camp Sunshine a fat camp?
I don't think we even had camps in India. Like what self-respecting Desi parents send their kids away to camp in India?
Because I know like Kejo had like some weight issues, right? And in his youth, so maybe this is like some sort of autobiography kind of like seeping in there. Or maybe it was just a joke for Dadi. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. I love that Aman and Rahul are meeting at the Indian Exporter Conference. I just thought that was funny. And also, there's a whole confusion about the telephone. And I was like, nobody's called back. Nobody's asked what the other person actually on the line said. Anjali doesn't recognize Rahul's voice. It's like, yeah, it's just hilarious that the Indian Exporter Conference doesn't have decent telephone lines.
Or the receptionist is just an intern.
Yeah. She got confused by 2 lines and 2 Anjalis, so that was kind of the Anjali 2.0 reveal is still awesome, man. like the whole, like when Shah Rukh is saying how Anjali was jhalli thi, ladkon jaisi thi, and you have the in the background. It's so good. It's so good.
And then the second coming of Kajol's unibrow.
Yeah. I also like the fact that she didn't invite any of her college friends. She's like, fuck those bitches.
But then all the extras in Kajol's wedding are the same people who were in Xavier's and are the same in summer camp.
Are they?
Yeah.
I thought they were different. I do like this was, again, this is because this is written by a 24-year-old, but Shah Rukh runs to Camp Sunshine because his daughter has coughed and he doesn't give her any attention for the rest of the camp. To the point, at the basketball game, she's getting teased by a boy that girls can do what boys can, and Rahul picks the boys' team. Like, instead of making it a teachable moment for the little boy, actually that whole scene sucks. I feel Kajol should have won that basketball match. I think that cinematic, getting back, what should we have changed in this movie? I think it would have made so much more sense if Kajol had won that match. Even with the sari, even with the hair, she can still kick ass, that would have been really cool. And it would have been also tied in with, Anjali kind of learning, girls can kick ass. I think that would have been something a bit cooler. Anjali's pallu flying off. Farah Khan apparently added that sequence in there because she needed the love to be a bit more Bollywood. In the 20-year-old reunion, Shah Rukh kind of jokingly said, "Oh, I'm creepily looking at the pallu fly off," but I don't think it was that creepy. I don't know.
No, he feels self-conscious and then he takes, looks away.
Yeah, he does look away. And then also that, Shah Rukh knows how he looks good, and he knows that looking back with the arch eyebrow thing looks good because he does that a lot. So we have both of those things. So yeah.
But that thing is also very classic Bollywood,
It is,
this woman who's wearing saris every day, but she doesn't know how to pin her fucking sari to the blouse, and it's just walking around and wind is I'd
like to mention Rima Lagu and Salman. They have done a lot of Ma Beta movies, and in this movie they get to share a very tiny moment. But even then, when he's mother-in-law, it's just an amazing Ma Beta chemistry on screen.
It's like Amitabh Nirupa Roy level. It's there's a few Ma Beta combinations, and Rima Lagu is Salman's form.
I would if she were to accidentally call him Prem, I would be okay, that's fine.
And the times Rima has played Shah Rukh's mom, in Kal Ho Na Ho, it doesn't work for me. It's no.
It's like Dhoka.
How can you do that, Rima? The patriotic Eve teasing I talked about already. Mera Pera. That's such good lines, man, in this movie. I think I'm done. Anything that you guys had that you wanted to still kind of talk about?
I saw a few cameos. I knew there were quite a few cameos of future Dharma collaborations, like Tarun Mansukhani and Farah Khan is there, Nikhil Advani is there. But I found Manish Malhotra is there in this movie when Kajol tries to doll up as a girl and she's walking and everybody's laughing at her.
Yeah.
And Manish Malhotra is in that crowd. He probably gave her the dress to wear. like double standards, Manish.
Yeah, Farah looks so young too,
Yeah.
she's like, yeah. Also, one more thing, like when they're playing dumb charades, right? When they're playing charades, I think we're not supposed to call it dumb charades anymore, right? We're supposed to call it charades. I was like, how appropriate is like Rangila for these kids? Like, and then like a 4-year-old kid like, hey, it's Rangila. It's like, why is this kid watching Rangila?
I was not made to watch Rangila. I was like instructed, you cannot watch Rangila.
Yeah. That's good parenting, man. Like 4-year-olds should not be watching Rangila. Again, kids being written by Karan Johar. And also like in that charades game, like Shah Rukh's shirt is way too transparent. Like he was planning to make a move. Like there's nipple action. We can see his nipples.
I saw that coming.
At Khandaan, we're a very male nipple-centric podcast. Amrita takes over the movies, like she did with Wanted. We focus on the male nip action. He was definitely planning a move there. He had the whole thing planned.
Kind of, I think, preempted the rain was coming and his shirt would get even more transparent, and that will totally lure Anjali into his life.
Yeah, because he actually, when it starts raining, he pulls her in. He says, I want to take you to a place. So he definitely had a plan there. Like,
oh, man.
I also like when the reveal with Aman came and they're like talking to each other for the first time and Rahul realizes that she's actually engaged. He's like just standing in the pouring rain. Like he's the only one. There's like water dripping everywhere on his lip, on his nose, on his hair. It's so funny.
That's kind of like going back to when Kajol realizes that Rahul is in love with Tina instead, and she's in that pouring rain and she's crying as well, but Rahul can't tell because it's raining.
Yeah. He looks good, man. He knows how he looks good. So,
and you were definitely you were tweeting last night about how amazing Shah Rukh's hair is in this movie.
It is amazing, right?
Yeah,
like especially in like the college half, like it's a thing of beauty, I must say. Like I shave my head, but I don't ever get envious of people's hair or I wish that I had hair. But this was like after a long time, I was like, wow, that looks like that is Vidal Sassoon kind of level hair. That's really good. Is Vidal Sassoon even a reference people would get? I'm aging myself. I think we can wrap this up, right? Amrita, any final thoughts on Kuch Kuch Hota Hai?
I think it still holds up, mostly.
Mostly. Sujoy?
I was a bit skeptical about how it would be because it's a 3-hour long movie, but I watched the whole thing at one go, and I didn't forward the songs because the songs are amazing. It's amazing. If you love Bollywood, if you want to get introduced to Bollywood, or if you just want to watch a good 90s movie and experience the Bollywood era of the 90s, this is the movie to go to.
One thing that I did was I watched this on Amazon Prime, and I do feel this could like get like a kind of a restoration or an upgrade or that kind of thing. It looks good. But there's still like, it was missing subtitles. It looked like a DVD transfer more than anything. And I think it could like, it could benefit from like, having kind of upgraded. I like that Amazon is now like putting 4K UHD, movies from Yash Raj.
This is more of a Dharma issue though. I think they haven't remastered it from the reel to a 4K reprint or whatever. And some of the screens, some of the scenes have like really a huge amount of noise. And especially the last scene where what's his name? Rahul is in Anjali's room. The green screen is very, very visible. It's a bit annoying.
Yeah. So I think that it kind of deserves it, like a remastering. I think that is something like a cue that maybe Dharma should take for the next.
And a cue for Amazon that, like, we have those skip intro options. They should put an option to just skip to whatever song we like of this movie.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
It is funny also that like this doesn't have the classic Dharma intro, you know, the la 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 la, you know, that kind of thing, and the logo and stuff like that. It still has that old school feel to it. It's weird because after this it was never the same again. It's really cool that Karan like made this empire, you know, like Dharma production was not doing well. Like they've had just flop after years, and just like you know, like it is now the premier studio, I would say. You know, it's like probably second to Yash Raj, and it's just like wow, like his dad must be so proud. You know, his parents must be so proud. It must be a cool feeling for him. I like Karan, man. I've always liked him. Even like, is it our friend Sal in the Batman that says, he's a problematic favorite. I think that's where I read it, and I think that's correct. Like he's a problematic favorite. Okay, I guess that's it. I think we talked a lot about this movie, and I hope people felt we did it slightly differently because we were struggling to find like a good format for this episode. But yeah, you have a curious cat for letting us know your comments about it, anonymous or not anonymous. So next episode again, you can vote. I'll put the vote up. It's going to be between Dilwale. So the Shah Rukh and Varun Dhawan Dilwale, not the Ajay Devgan and
Sunil Shetty
Dilwale. Bajrangi Bhaijaan, one of my all-time favorites, and Prem Ratan Dhan Payo. So yeah, I guess you can drop us a note on which movie you want to vote for. Amrita, where can people find you online?
On Twitter at Amrita IQ.
Sujoy?
I'm on Twitter at 9E3K.
Great. And I'm on at Asim Bernie. You can follow us on YouPodcast on social media. By the way, we still have goodie bags. I'm sending out a few because I got some really good reviews. Also, people that had already sent out a review to us and they never got anything. So I kind of like also sending it to them. If you leave us a review, we still have 0 goodie bags. We have Hitchkey goodie bags and a few other things that I want to kind of get rid of. So it's really cool, actually. Really cool movie merchandise. So drop us a review on iTunes. Send me a screenshot of it with your name, and then we'll sort something out. Thanks for listening, guys.
Khandaan Podcast on the acting class.